If you are looking to file taxes with W-2 and 1099 together, this video is for you. Now let me give you an overview here. Here is a scenario. Let's say you are working a regular 9-to-5 job, but it's not fulfilling you creatively. So you start doing some freelance on Fiverr, TopTal, or Upwork as a web designer. Or maybe you are working 3 minimum wage jobs and it's still not enough, right? So in your already limited free time, you start driving for Grubhub or Uber for some extra cash. Perhaps you're only working part-time because you're trying to get a freelance career off the ground. But the thing is, it's not quite yet paying the bills. So if you're one of the many Americans who just started a side hustle while also working a regular job, you are going to find yourself with two different types of forms come tax time. So question is, how do you file a W-2 and 1099 on the same 1040 return? Let me first thing first, who gets a 1099 and who gets a W-2? Let's first clarify that important that concept, if you will. So an independent contractor will get a 1099 while a regular employee will get a W-2. So now most people are already familiar with the W-2 form. It's basically the form employers use to report the annual wages earned by an employee and any withholdings from income. An employer must send a copy of the W-2 to both the employee and the IRS. And sometimes they have to send this to the state tax authorities. The employer will also withhold taxes from the wage payment the employee receives. Simple, straightforward, no problem, right? Question is, what about the income you make on the side? If you get paid $600 or more in a year as an independent contractor from a single client, you will receive a 1099 form. So this will either be a 1099 NEC if you got paid directly, because the NEC stands for non-employee compensation, or 1099K if you got paid through a credit card or payment app. So those of you who work on Fiverr, for example, you might receive a 1099K or 1099K through PayPal. In some cases, you also get a 1099 MIS, M-I-S-C. So this means what? It means that the lucky folks who earn money both ways end up with two types of forms coming in at tax time. So our W-2 and 1099 workers tax differently. But before I answer the question, welcome back to the channel. It's very wonderful to have you here. I appreciate your attention. So to answer the question, yes, W-2 and 1099 workers are taxed differently. The main difference is that W-2 workers get taxes withheld from their paychecks automatically, as mentioned earlier. They also pay less in FICA taxes. So let's talk about FICA taxes for W-2 versus 1099 workers. So whenever someone earns taxable income in general, the IRS collections are like what? The IRS gets 15.3% of it under the Federal Insurance Contributions Act, or FICA. And that amount basically, here is how it's broken down. So you have a 12.4% Social Security tax and 2.9% Medicare tax. Very important. So 12.4% Social Security plus 2.9% Medicare. When you add those two, it's 15.3%. So for W-2 workers, this is true whether you are earning money as an employee or an independent contractor. The difference is W-2 employees only pay 7.65% of the FICA tax out of pocket, while the employer covers the remaining 7.65%. For 1099 workers, the whole thing is different because you are fully responsible for the entire 15.3% of FICA tax on the net income from your business. This is usually referred to as self-employment tax. Okay. Now, while this may seem unfair, the rationale is that if you are serving as both the employee and employer, and you should pay both halves of the tax. And for people who earn both W-2 and 1099 income, you'll be paying the self-employment tax only on the money you earn through self-employment. The FICA tax on your regular wages remain the same. So the question is, how do you know if you are a W-2 or 1099 worker? The whole thing here is that sometimes it's not really clear. So there are three things I really want you to pay attention to. Basically, you got to ask three types of expectations if you want to figure out your tax status. Number one, behavioral expectations. Are you being told when to work, how you will do the job, and what equipment you will use? Do you have to request a day off? Those sorts of expectations are set by employers for their employees, and they should come with the W-2. Let's talk about financial expectations. Does your workplace buy new equipment and cover the cost of repairs when things break? Do they determine what dates you get paid on and the method of payment will be? If they buy everything and there is no negotiations on payment dates, you should get a W-2. What about relationship expectations? As a general rule, does the company have a say over how you use your time? Do they provide you with company covered benefits such as sick days and pension? If they don't, and you negotiate and set your own terms, you probably will receive a 1099. Okay, so did you get a 1099 when you were expecting a W-2? If that happens, then you have to contact the company to readjust your situation and send you the right form. Now, let me talk to you about understanding the W-2 and 1099 NEC form. I really want to dig deeper here. By the way, I just want to quickly remind you that in today's conversation, today's topic is how do you file taxes with W-2 and 1099 together simultaneously on the same 1040 form, okay? Now, what is a 1099 form? Let's just break it down. Let's go back to the origins here. The 1099 NEC is the informational form provided by employers to self-employed independent contractors. Basically, informational form means what? It means that you're not paying taxes on the form. Your employer, your client, sends a form to the IRS to inform the agency how much you made so that the agency can actually expect taxable income from you when you file your taxes. Very important, okay? So they can actually evaluate how much taxes you owe. So basically, a 1099 NEC indicates the total amount paid to the contractor, and employers will issue this form because it helps justify their expenses, which reduces their taxable income. It serves also as evidence that additional income has been paid to an individual taxpayer, in this case you. You will likely receive this income as an independent contractor or as a self-employed individual in a sole proprietorship or a single person limited liability company. So if you have a single member LLC, you will receive a 1099 form. If you own your business or if you are a freelancer, you will likely receive a 1099 NEC form for each project that you complete. And if an employer has sent you more than $600 for a year, that employer is legally required to provide you with a 1099 NEC. Okay, and it's very important to remember that taxes will not be deducted from your payments except in specific circumstances, so that the 1099 NEC is essential for accurate tax reporting. That's for the 1099 form. What about the W-2 form? W-2 form is is basically an internal revenue form that is used to report income. It is used to both report wages paid to an employee and the taxes they were withheld from those wages. It also indicates the amount of taxes paid by the employer. So depending on the benefits provided by the employer, it also includes a variety of potential deduction codes. Another question is, can you get a W-2 and 1099 from the same firm, from the same business? Yes, but this is very rare, very rare. There are two cases when this might happen: side projects and a change in work status. Let me just dig a little deeper here in case you actually have this sort of unique situation here. When the employee has a side project, so this usually happens when a business has paid an employee to work on a side project unrelated to their regular work. For example, if a business pays an office worker extra to come in and repaint the office over the weekend, that additional payment will likely be treated as a non-employee service. So what will happen here is that at the end of the year, the employee will actually receive a 1099 reporting the painting income in addition to the W-2 reporting his or her regular wages. What will happen here is that for the 1099 payments, no taxes would have been withheld from that payment. So for example, if the employee got paid $1,000 for that repainting job, it will be $1,000 gross. No FICA will be withheld, nothing at all. And at the end of the year, the employee will take that money will take that 1099 NEC income and add that income to their Schedule C when they file the Form 1040. Remember, they also have to pay self-employment taxes on that income. So when an employee has a side project, they might receive a W-2 and a 1099 from the same company. Another scenario is when a contractor becomes an employee. This can also happen if a worker's status at a company changes in the middle of a tax year. Let's say someone freelances for a company and then gets offered a full-time job there. So that first tax season, he or she will need to report both his or her initial freelance income with the 1099 and then the regular salary with the W-2. So those are the only two situations where the same individual can receive a W-2 and a 1099 from the same business. So if you are in that situation, either because you had a side project as an employee or you became an employee after being a contractor, you know what to do. Basically, you have to actually take care of the income that you have to pay taxes on the income that you got from the 1099. Very important. Let's talk about using 1099 income to lower your tax bill. By the way, I just want to remind everybody, today's topic, we are talking about how to file taxes with W-2 and 1099 together, okay? Now, the good news is that self-employed people, including those with a regular job, get to claim a lot more deductions than people who only work a W-2 job, okay? These expenses that I'm going to talk about do need to be related to your self-employed work though. Very important, so please do not be too excited here. But that probably covers a lot more than you would think. Some common 1099 deductions include home office deduction. Remember, the home office has to be, the section that you actually allocate to the home office must be directly related to the job that you're doing as a self-employed or as an independent contractor, okay? You can also deduct phone and internet bills, health insurance premiums, business insurance premiums, business travel lasting longer than 1 day. See, if it doesn't last longer than 1 day, it's just considered commuting. So the IRS will not actually allow this sort of deduction. In some cases they might, but usually they don't. You can also deduct business meals, vehicle expenses based on mileage driven or actual expenses, interest on business loans, business related educational expenses. So if you attend some training, some workshops, you can deduct that. Commercial rent, startup costs, qualified business income. So this is really important. One thing I want to say here is that if the prospect of tracking all this seems overwhelming, don't worry. You just have to trust everything to your accounting software. So question is, what accounting software are you currently using? Wave, Xero, QuickBooks, what are you using? So basically the software that you're using will automatically help you. Actually, it will tell you what kind of deductions that you can qualify for. Okay, this is important. But here you have it, the constellation of deductions you can take to actually lower your 1099 income. Okay, and those deductions are all legit. They're really legal. The IRS understand that you are making money through your self-employment, through your self-employed job. So it makes sense to actually deduct the expenses that contributed to that income in the first place. Let's talk about using your W-2 job to lower your quarterly taxes. So in addition to more forms, one other thing that self-employed people take on when starting their businesses is quarterly taxes. So these are due 4 times a year, and you will have to pay them if you expect to owe $1,000 or more in tax on your self-employment income. So quarterly taxes are the bane of every freelancer's existence, but it actually helps if you have a W-2 job as well. Why? W-2 employees can increase their income tax withholdings to cover any tax due on their earnings as independent contractors. Okay, so what will happen here is that if your W-2 withholdings are not enough to cover the income tax on your Form 1099 income, you will need to make estimated tax payments each quarter to the IRS using the Form 1040 ES, and that's estimated tax for individuals. Okay, so this is really important. Now, one thing I want to say here is that it is actually important to plan your taxes so you don't find yourself basically having to pay some penalties. Okay, now, can you avoid filing quarterly estimated tax payments if you have 1099 and W-2 income? Well, it really depends on your situation. Why? Because taxes are paid as you earn or receive income. So the IRS accomplished this in two ways. You have payroll withholdings and estimated quarterly tax payments. Estimated taxes can be used to pay self-employment tax and the alternative minimum tax, AMT, in addition to income taxes. So the thing here is that if you find yourself in a situation where you don't pay enough in estimated tax, then a penalty will be due when you file your annual tax return. So, and that the penalty, that's what you are trying to avoid. That's what you should avoid anyway. Individuals, including sole proprietorships or freelancers, partners, and S corporation shareholders, generally have to make estimated tax payments if they expect to owe tax about $1,000 or more when the return is filed. So tax off, that's the amount here. Okay, so what I want to say here is that you don't have to pay estimated tax for the current year if you meet 3 of the following conditions, and you have to meet all of them. Okay, you had not all of them, sorry, you have to meet one of the 3. So you had no tax liability for the prior year, you were a U.S. citizen or a resident for the whole year, and your prior tax year covered a 12-month period. So actually it's not either, it's all the 3 conditions. Sorry about that. So basically you don't have to pay estimated tax for the current year if you meet all 3 of the following conditions: no tax liability for the prior year, you were a U.S. citizen or resident for the full year, your prior tax year covered a 12-month period. Now let's talk about the process you have to put in place. This is very important. Now, how do you file taxes with both types of income? There is an important process you have to put in place before you even file taxes. That's what I was just talking to you earlier when I mentioned the planning phase, the importance of planning. Bringing in multiple forms of bacon, you will need to do some extra work. So I want you to keep these tips in mind while filing with W-2 and a 1099. First, you have to understand, and this is quite essential, the 1040 form is your home base, okay? And this is basically the form that will where you will report your W-2 income, your self-employment income, and tax and more. You need a Schedule C and a Schedule SE2. So these forms help you report your self-employed income and are used to complete your 1040. Let me just break it down further. Schedule C, you want to use this profit and loss business form to add up your self-employment tax deductions. What about Schedule SC? You want to use this to calculate what portion of your self-employed income you owe for Medicare and Social Security taxes. So these taxes are not withheld from 1099 earnings, as I said before, like they are from W-2 income. The third thing I want you to remember is that your taxable income includes both types of income. So when calculating your total individual taxable income, you will report your 1099 profit or loss along with your W-2 income. You need to report your freelance income even if you did not receive a 1099. Okay, hello, Fiverr freelancers, hello, Upwork, hello, TopTail. Don't say that, I didn't receive any 1099, so I'm not. No, you have to. Companies don't have to send you a 1099 if they paid you less than $600. You still need to pay taxes on that income, even if it's small. So be sure to report it. How much you can actually deduct depends on your income type. So as a W-2 employee, expenses that you incur while on the job are not deductible, though you may be reimbursed by your employer. As an independent contractor, ordinary and necessary expenses related to your work are deductible as business expenses. And I gave you earlier the list of the non-exhaustive list of deductible expenses. Remember that your tax refund depends on how accurate your tax return is, not how many jobs you have. Because a tax refund is basically getting back your own earned income it's best to pay your taxes as accurately as possible. That way, you keep more of your own money upfront to spend and earn interest on. So please do not procrastinate. If you rush your tax return, you may make errors that keep you from getting a refund. So be very careful here. Check your W-2 withholdings, make estimated tax payments during the year, and know your tax credits and deductions. Very important. Now let's talk about filing your taxes with both a W-2 and a 1099. Step number 1. You want to report your W-2 income. So the process for reporting your W-2 income is relatively straightforward. So on your Form 1040 or individual income tax return, these are the boxes worth paying most attention to. Just look on the screen right now. So the income from box 1 of W-2 will go on line 1 of the 1040. Any interest, dividends, retirement accounts, or Social Security benefits you received on line 2A through 6B of the Form 1040. Withholding from your W-2 will go on 25A on the Form 1040. So this is really important. So you have to report your W-2 income. Next, you have to report your 1099 earnings. So reporting your 1099 income on your 1040 is more complicated, but it's not that bad once you understand what's going on. For this part of your taxes, you will need Form Schedule C. So this form is used for reporting income for a sole proprietorship, a business owned by a single individual, or a single member LLC. Okay. Schedule C is part of your individual tax return and not a separate business tax return. Note that you will need to file a 1040 Schedule C for each business you operate. For example, if you are an Amazon Flex driver and a musician, you will need to file Schedule C for your delivery business and a second one for your music business. Line 1 of Schedule C should list all your total business income from that job for the year. It should be at least as much as the income on all of the 1099 forms you got for that job. Step number 3. You need to put in your 1099 deductions. It's your business, so you have a business income and business expenses. So if your business sold goods, you subtract the cost of goods sold from your earnings to get your gross income, which you will put on line 7. If you didn't sell any goods, just enter your business income from line 1 directly on line 7. And what will happen here is that you will then calculate your deductions for business expenses. And the deduction categories are listed on lines 8 through 27 in alphabetical order. So this is really pretty straightforward. Just make sure that you actually write off everything. I mean, everything. Step number 4. You want to find your taxable self-employment income. So once your deductions have been entered, subtract your total deductions from line 7 gross income on your Schedule C. If you claim the home office deduction, you want to list it on line 30 and subtract it from your line 7 gross income as well. Your gross income minus the total of your deductions is your taxable income from self-employment. Step number 5, you want to calculate your self-employment tax amount. So any taxable self-employment amount over 400 is subject to the self-employment tax. So this is calculated by subtracting business expenses from your taxable income, then multiplying the difference by 0.9235 or 92.35% of your total taxable income. So this very strange math reflects the fact that you deduct 50% of your self-employment tax from the income used to calculate the tax. Now, don't worry, the tax form shows, you will really get a clear explanation on the tax form how to do the calculation and which line to enter the numbers into. If you earn more than $400 in taxable income, you will need to file a Schedule SC self-employment tax. Now, one thing I need to say here is that if you use a tax preparation software, things are done automatically in the background. Okay, you don't have to do this sort of odd math yourself. Step number 6, you have to put it all together. Okay, before you can add your self-employment income to your 1040, you'll need to summarize everything on a Form Schedule 1. So your Schedule C income goes on line 3. Very important. Okay. So now you can add that number to line 8 of your regular 1040 and run the rest of 1040 for your final income tax results. Then you submit all of your forms together and you are done. So this is important. One thing I want to say here is that, again, I want to go back to what I said. We have actually covered this on another show at length. So if you're interested, let us know. We'll send you the link. And one thing I also want to say here, you don't have to do this manually. No. If tax return filing is not your forte, you can hire a tax preparer, or you can just use the tax preparation software. And again, things are done a lot easier and in the background, okay, without you actually doing anything. Just have the right data and enter the data. The software will take care of things for you. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about how to file taxes with a W-2 and 1099 together. So we talked about who gets a 1099 and who gets the W-2, or W-2 and 1099 workers taxed differently. Yes. How do you know if you're a W-2 or 1099 worker? We gave 3 types of expectations, and we explained a little bit about the W-2 forms and 1099 NEC form. And I also said that you can get a W-2 and 1099 form from the same firm. There are 2 scenarios. You can use the 1099 income to lower your tax bill. You can use your W-2 job to lower your quarterly taxes. And you got to put a full process in place. And I explained to you finally how to file step by step your taxes with both a W-2 and 1099. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.